A few weeks ago, I stumbled across a clip of Michael Porter Jr. on the Old Man and Three podcast that blew my mind.
I don't know, were you ranked in high school and things like that?
I mean, I was McDonald's game MVP, but...
never mind. It was good.
How is it possible that just 4 years after retiring, people have already forgotten how great JJ Redick was at basketball? I mean, this is the same guy who lit college basketball on fire in some of the most hectic environments.
Hands on the ball, there's Redick. Great look. Redick, at last, a three. Between Duke and BC.
But then I had another thought. What if I was the one who was wrong about JJ Redick? What if he wasn't actually as good as I remembered him back in college? And how effective was he really at the peak of his NBA career? Suddenly, I had a question I had to get to the bottom of. How good was JJ Redick actually? And to answer that question, we've got to go all the way back to 2002. After an impressive high school career where he won a state championship, JJ Redick earned a scholarship to play for his dream school, Duke University. Although Duke was a dream come true for JJ, it also came with a set of drawbacks, largely due to the Blue Devils' bad reputation, thanks to former players like Bobby Hurley and the infamous Christian Laettner. Now, JJ Redick was poised to be the latest in a long line of white Duke villains. But little did he know how much hate was actually about to come his way.
I'm amazed at some of the things that come out of college students' mouths directed towards me.
After a promising freshman campaign, ending in a Sweet 16 appearance and an ACC title, JJ earned the reputation as the least liked player in all of American sports.
JJ Redick, the guy that opposing fans love to hate.
Suddenly, every away crowd was treating him like some kind of terrorist. Just check out this clip of him at the free throw line while playing against Maryland.
It was 63-60, but then a turnover and two missed shots, and then the two fouls against Redick.
At one point, it got so bad that JJ started receiving death threats in the form of text messages.
Words, I want to name my kid JJ Redick, and on the back it said, and beat him every day.
In order to cope with that overwhelming pressure, JJ started spending his free time drinking alcohol alone in his dorm room, leading him to one of the darkest periods of his entire life.
All of those voices before he hits the road once again.
With what felt like the whole world against him, JJ says he considered quitting basketball altogether.
And especially those first 2 years at Duke, I wanted to quit my sophomore year.
But thankfully, some tough love from one of his college coaches changed his trajectory forever.
Never forget, he said, "The sad thing is, we'll never know how good you can be." And I was like, fuck, that hurts.
As the story goes, one day an assistant smelled alcohol in JJ's breath. Because of this, the coach pulled JJ aside and scolded him for his reckless behavior, going as far as to compare JJ to a player named Chris Herron, a former star college basketball player at Boston whose career was wasted thanks to substance abuse.
There's also Chris Herron, the addict.
As some of you may know, I have been battling a personal problem for the past 4 years.
It sounds harsh, but this speech gave JJ the exact wake-up call he needed, leading JJ to quitting drinking once and for all and to recommit himself to the game he once loved. Instead of running away from the game and quitting, JJ became one of the most disciplined and meticulous players the game has ever seen, strategically taking care of his body and mind through hard work and meditation.
8:30 breakfast, 9 a.m. check-in with Coach Collins, 10 a.m. class. And it was down the line, lifting, conditioning, basketball, court work, study hall, lights out, 10 p.m.
JJ became one of the most disciplined players the game has ever seen. Now Redick had all the tools he needed to block out the noise, leading to one of the greatest careers in college hoops history.
JJ Redick pulls it back and takes Sato, who's late getting there. JJ Redick. Redick comes off the screen, plants the feet, hits.
Despite being almost universally hated, JJ Redick balled out during his Blue Devils tenure, averaging 26 points per game in his senior season and 42% from beyond the arc. Night in and night out, crowds gave JJ hell, and JJ gave it right back to them, making some absolutely ridiculous shots and showing a level of basketball IQ that clearly was off the charts. And so, after 4 years of playing for Duke, JJ finished his career as the ACC all-time leader in three-point field goals and free throw percentage, while also landing as the second highest scorer in all of ACC history. He was a two-time ACC Player of the Year, a two-time All-American, and a National Player of the Year for the 2006 season, making him one of the most decorated individuals to ever play college ball.
University's all-time scoring leader, JJ Redick.
But regardless of all of his college success, JJ still had a lot to prove to play at the next level, which brings us to the lead-up of the 2006 NBA Draft. Going into the draft, many scouts praised JJ for his offensive firepower, but still had doubts about his defense. Some of this was due to JJ's last game of his college career, where he was held to just 3 baskets while being guarded by Garrett Temple. Analysts wondered if JJ could make the leap to a bigger, more physical league, and unfortunately his lack of size wasn't his only concern. Just before the draft, JJ was arrested after being caught drunk driving near Duke's campus. Suddenly, that reputation for drinking was being questioned all over again. Because of this, JJ dropped down even further in a lot of people's draft boards, leading to one of the best college players in his draft being taken 11th overall by the Orlando Magic.
With the 11th pick in the 2006 NBA Draft, the Orlando Magic select JJ Redick from Duke University.
And unfortunately, Orlando wound up being a tough fit for JJ. During his rookie year, he only averaged a measly 14 minutes a night and 6 points a game, struggling to get minutes on a squad with a lot of veteran guard depth. And just a year later, JJ admitted to the press that he was upset with Coach Van Gundy's rotation. Quote, "I want to stay here, but it's been frustrating." Not exactly what you want to hear if you're an Orlando Magic fan. By his third year, JJ was still only seeing the floor for about 17 minutes a night, leading many to forget about the former Duke star altogether, with some even considering him an NBA bust. So here was JJ again, his back against the wall. Only this time, he had the work ethic and mindset he had already built up in college. So instead of turning into drinking and giving up altogether, JJ stuck to the grind and took his game to a whole other level. In the fourth season, as JJ minutes start to tick up into the low 20s, his stats also began to tick up across the board. And surprisingly, JJ's defense deficiencies weren't hurting the Magic as much as scouts had feared. You see, between Dwight Howard and Hedo Turkoglu, the Magic had a ton of length that they could spread across the floor, allowing JJ to focus on the parts of his game that he did best, shooting.
Gortat hold it down, his third rebound already. It's a Turk. There's Redick without a conscience.
Suddenly, JJ Redick wasn't looking like a bust at all, and instead like a cunning role player with a flamethrower from behind the arc. But then, without any warning, JJ Redick was traded to the Milwaukee Bucks, ending his rise in Orlando in the blink of an eye. And though JJ was sad his Magic tenure had ended on terms he hadn't quite expected, he was still about to become a free agent for the first time in his career, leading him to signing with the team he'd become most associated with, the Los Angeles Clippers, aka Lob City. In Los Angeles, Redick was given a starting spot for the first time in his NBA career. The Clippers saw his potential, and they wanted to give him a chance to show it on the biggest stage. And even better, he landed on a roster that was loaded with high-end talent. High flyers like Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, plus an elite backcourt mate and distributor in the form of Chris Paul. Now, JJ was primed to enter the best phase of his career, a stretch where he would prove himself as one of the most elite shooters in the league.
Is down to 5. JJ for 2.
With the Clippers, JJ feasted from beyond the arc, averaging 40% every single season, including a 2015 season where he led the league, shooting, get this, 47.5% on 6 attempts per game. Suddenly, JJ had captured that Duke stardom in the NBA and had turned himself into one of the NBA's most efficient shooters, capable of putting up some stats as a #1 option. Just watch some of these highlights from his 40-point game back in 2016 against the Houston Rockets.
5th made three-pointer. And it's JJ Redick for 3 and poked in the eye.
The Clippers franchise flourished too, winning over 50 games for 5 straight seasons. And unfortunately, as you know, they didn't translate to the playoffs no matter how hard they tried.
This group dealt with a lot of stuff. It wasn't smooth sailing by any means.
After 4 years of starting for the team, JJ Redick and the Clippers never made it to the conference finals once. Because of this, the Lob City era is largely remembered as one of the most disappointing teams in NBA history. So, how much did JJ Redick's individual play contribute to that team's demise? Well, if you ask me, I think JJ proved during his Clippers tenure that he could play winning basketball. But unfortunately, due to a mix of injuries and coaching decisions, he didn't get a chance to prove it in the playoffs. And now, JJ was reaching his 30s and hoping to find a team that could get him over the hump, leading him to signing with the Philadelphia 76ers.
I feel like I joined the process at the right time. I was not ready to be a part of the process 4 years ago.
With the Sixers, Redick picked up right where he left off in Lob City, contributing to the team from beyond the arc as a savvy veteran presence.
In Indonesia, there's Booker again breaking it free. Redick will try it again.
JJ Redick and Joel Embiid's pick and roll was one of the most efficient plays in all of basketball.
Sport problems this summer when he was traveling from a clinic in Indonesia. There's Redick here with a hot potato, got the Sixers in their travails.
But it led to 2 seasons of disappointing playoff losses, including this all-time playoff dagger.
Defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger?
Don't get me wrong, JJ Redick's stats for a role player in Philly were still pretty elite, averaging the most points per game of his 14-year career. But remember, this is a role player and he didn't have quite the power to dictate games like stars do. So at this point of his career, with his best days behind him, he was approaching the twilight of his career.
On the break, fouled, and Redick.
After 2 seasons in playing for Philadelphia, JJ signed his final contract with the New Orleans Pelicans, hoping to mentor Zion and get the Pelicans' rise to playoff glory. But again, they traded him out of nowhere midway through his 2nd season, a move to this day that really doesn't sit well with him.
Griff basically says to me, come down for a month. If you still want to be traded, I give you my word. I'll get you to a situation that you like.
This resulted in JJ finishing his career as a member of the Dallas Mavericks, where he began to form a very important bond with a young Luka Doncic, a player who he might have quite the impact a few years down the road. But for now, JJ Redick's playing career was coming to an end. But weirdly, his influence on the game wasn't even close to done. During the back half of his playing career, JJ Redick was already planting seeds of his life after basketball, starting the very first active player podcast, long before it became a trend for nearly every player to do so. JJ Redick's podcast may have changed names many times over the years, but his philosophy never wavered. With every interview, he strived to further basketball discourse and the average fan's understanding of the game. It's one of my favorite podcasts in all sports, and no wonder he became the face of a new media movement, arguing back to the talking heads who had long since dominated the NBA conversation.
You just said that Jimmy Butler was a perimeter shooter.
Did he ever shoot over 40%?
Probably 39, 40%. Different kind of game.
Not once.
It's
Not
fair.
once.
That's fair. You also had 29 assists in an NBA game.
I'm going to go ahead and apologize to Perk because I know that he doesn't like advanced stats, but often advanced stats inform us, they provide insight, they often reinforce what we see.
Suddenly, JJ Redick went from changing the game in the NCAA and NBA to changing the way we talked about the game altogether. And crazy enough, he still isn't finished yet. Now he had his eyes set on a return to the locker room in a very different role, leading to the final phase of his illustrious career.
Lakers are hiring JJ Redick to a 4-year deal to coach the team, according to Woj. Redick.
On June 24, 2024, JJ Redick announced that he was the new head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. I guess hosting that pod with LeBron really paid off after all. But jokes aside, JJ's turn to coaching had many nervous. He'd wind up as the same as other Lakers head coaches who had come before him. But what he's proven so far is that his basketball IQ shines off the court as well.
Try to screen his guy so he can force the over. You're letting him get downhill. Once he crosses the veer line and the guys behind the play, when you make the veer call, it should be in the paint.
In one season as the Lakers head coach, Mr. Redick has taken the team from a play-in team to 3rd in the Western Conference, additionally becoming the first rookie Lakers head coach since Pat Riley to win 50 games. And sure, some of that is due to picking up one of the greatest point guards of all time from a Lob season mid-season trade. Don't get me started on that one. But it also has a lot to do with JJ's unique coaching strategy. Moments like this show that JJ seems to be uniquely connected to his players, while incredibly willing to hold his star players accountable.
In his own words, I'm not going to glaze him, but he's doing an outstanding job so far. What was the message to the in the huddle after that time I was called, and what you make of the team's response? I think you guys went on a 9-0 run to get the lead back up to 20. The
huddle, play better.
And now, JJ is poised at his best shot at a playoff run since his time playing with the Clippers. Hard to argue against the idea that the Lakers have one of the brightest futures in the league, and JJ Redick is at the head of that franchise. Okay, so what does this all mean in terms of our main question? How good was JJ Redick actually? Well, to me, saying that he's anything less than great would actually be an understatement. Not many can say they managed to hang around the NBA for 14 whole seasons, contributing more and more to the game as he got older. In the end, JJ's field goal percentage landed at nearly 45%, and from beyond the arc, an absurdly impressive 41.5%. That puts him from percentage-wise above some of the best marksmen in the history of the game, including three-point assassins like Klay Thompson, Ray Allen, and Reggie Miller. This level of shooting production over that amount of time makes JJ one of the most efficient offensive role players to ever play in the league. And that's without mentioning his college career, where he was a bona fide superstar.
Has not been the primary ball handler. Redick on.
Honestly, when you start to look at it from a full picture, JJ Redick has been incredibly impactful on the game of basketball since the turn of the century. Sure, he wasn't as good on the court as players like Stephen Curry or Kevin Durant, but unlike those players, JJ has been in basketball headlines since all the way back to 2002. That's 23 years of being around and directly impacting the game. And with the way his coaching career has started, he could be around for a whole lot longer. But don't quote me on that one. The way I see it, I think JJ Redick has one of the scrappiest, most unorthodox, and one of the most influential role player career arcs of any player to play the game, changing the game on the court and off the court, all for the better. I, for one, am excited to see how great of a coach he can be, and just how much more he can change the game over this next stretch of his life. But what do you think? How good was JJ Redick actually? Did you get to see his college highlights, or are you like Michael Porter Jr. who had no idea? And if you enjoy these videos, please let me know by subscribing and ticking on the notification bell. I've got a lot of awesome content coming out, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. Until then, peace.